Welcome to the Man of Recaps. This is House of the Dragon, Season 1. Welcome back to Westeros for the Game of Thrones prequel series. We're 200 years earlier, so multiple generations back. By the time of Game of Thrones, dragons were thought to be extinct, but right now we're in the Dragon Golden Age. The Targaryens have like a dozen of them. One of the dragon riders is our main character, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, who's a cool, willful young girl, a lot like Daenerys. Her father is the king, Viserys Targaryen, and right now it's a time of peace and prosperity. Everything's chill. Except there's some concerns about the line of succession because he has no sons. Rhaenyra is his only child. There's precedent right now to skip over female heirs and go to the next male one, which would be the king's brother, Daemon Targaryen. Now, Daemon is a complicated character. He's not like a bad guy, but he does things his own way. For example, they just put him in charge of the city watch, so on night one, he rounds up every criminal in King's Landing and executes them. You're welcome, guys, I ended crime. But the queen is pregnant right now, so in honor of their hopefully new son, they host a grand tournament. Prince Daemon, of course, is the favorite, but it's this random knight, Sir Criston Cole, who actually wins the day. More on him later. But tragically, childbirth is extremely dangerous, and mother and babe both do not survive. Sad times for House Targaryen, but everyone grieves in their own way. Like Daemon, for example, goes to a brothel and makes dead baby jokes. Now remember, the Hand of the King is second in command, and this one's Otto Hightower, who really likes King Viserys that listens to his counsel. He does not want King Daemon, who will do whatever he wants and probably fire him. So Otto's all too happy to report what Daemon said, so King Viserys is real mad at his brother, names him specifically not the heir, and kicks him out of the city. And in a grand public ceremony in front of all the lords of the realm, names his daughter, Rhaenyra, heir to the Iron Throne. Now, Daemon kind of ignores this. He's still acting like he's going to be king, so Rhaenyra has to fly in on dragonback to put her uncle in his place. Now, Daemon has no problem killing people, but he doesn't want to fight his niece. In fact, he really likes his niece, so it's like, all right, fine, you're the heir. Now, King Viserys is still a relatively young guy, and it's like, hey, you should remarry to make more backup Targaryens. The best marriage proposal comes from his master of ships, Corlys Velaryon, the Sea Snake. In fact, he's married to the king's cousin, Rhaenys Targaryen, the female heir that was passed over in favor of Viserys. So marrying their daughter is a little incestual, but for the Targaryens, that's a good thing. Keep the bloodline strong. Only problem is their daughter is still way too young to get married. In medieval politics, you gotta lock down that betrothal early, but Viserys isn't feeling it. But there's another surprise candidate, Alicent Hightower, daughter of Hand of the King Otto Hightower, and incidentally, Rhaenyra's best friend. Her dad is like, hey, the king is real sad about his wife's death. You should go comfort him. Gross, man. But Alicent's a dutiful daughter. She starts helping the king build his model city, and these two strike up a friendship. And so it's a 2-year time jump as the king married Alicent and instantly had a son, Aegon. Everyone assumes he is now the heir, which is awkward for Rhaenyra, but her dad's like, nah girl, you're my heir, I'm sticking to it. Now what does Daemon think of this? Well, he's been at war in the Stepstones fighting a pirate called the Crab Feeder, and he gets an epic action sequence where he basically solos the entire Crab Feeder army. Now he comes home to King's Landing with a haircut and an apology, so his brother instantly forgives him. Happy Targaryen family again. And to Rhaenyra, he's the cool uncle who sneaks her out of the castle for a night on the town. But their pub crawl ends in a brothel. Uncle, where are you taking me? And it wouldn't be Game of Thrones without a little bit of incest. But for Targaryens, it's not weird, it's normal, and they're both feeling it, so more power to you. But for one reason or another, Daemon decides not to go through with it, leaves Rhaenyra hanging. So when she gets home, she's all hot and bothered, makes a move on her bodyguard, Sir Criston Cole. Yes, Criston Cole, who won the tournament. Rhaenyra named him to the King's Guard because he's the best fighter and the hottest. Now, banging your bodyguard is against the rules, but these two are feeling it, so they get it on. But the city of King's Landing is full of spies that report to the Hand, Otto Hightower, and he would much prefer his grandson to be king instead of Rhaenyra, so he's happy to stir the pot again. Your daughter and brother were caught in a brothel together. And so after one day of brothers being friends again, Viserys has to rebanish him. Now he sends Alicent to talk to Rhaenyra like, yo girl, did you bone your uncle? Rhaenyra denies, like, yeah, we went into the brothel together, but not together. I swear I did not bone my uncle. Which is of course technically the truth, but it's a pretty big lie of omission because she almost did, and she banged Sir Criston later that night. But even if they didn't do it, just the rumor would ruin her because they still have that archaic moral system where girls having sex before marriage spoils them. But Rhaenyra's like, yo dad, check your sources. Where'd this rumor come from? And the king's like, you know what? You're right. Otto, man, no hard feelings, but you're gonna be biased towards your grandson. I gotta fire you as Hand of the King. Alicent's real sad to see her father go. Like, why would my friend Rhaenyra get you fired? But her dad's like, yo, Rhaenyra is not your friend anymore. She's a rival for the throne. And when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. Now, to quash any rumors, it's time Rhaenyra gets married, and they go back to the Velaryons. Their son Laenor is about Rhaenyra's age, and these two get along, but she's like, yo cuz, I know you're gay, that's fine, this is a political marriage, we can love whoever we want. So Laenor gets to keep his secret boyfriend, while Rhaenyra keeps her secret boyfriend, Criston Cole. You're okay with being my secret lover, right? But Criston Cole is not okay with that. He's got that archaic moral system, and now feels like he's a terrible person. But now it's time for a Game of Thrones wedding, which you know never ends well. The first drama is when Queen Alicent shows up late to upstage Rhaenyra with a a grand entrance in a bright green dress. And maybe it's a coincidence, but green is the color the High Towers light the flame when they call the banners to war. Yes, tragically, she's taken her father's advice to heart and is now real mad at her former friend Rhaenyra. And she's been influenced by another schemer, Larys Strong, son of the new Hand of the King, and he's happy to spill the tea about Rhaenyra drinking the morning after tea. Alicent investigates, and Criston Cole, feeling guilty, confesses instantly, and Alicent feels it's wildly unfair that Rhaenyra gets to do whatever she wants while she's been dutifully banging her gross old king. Now the wedding gets worse when Laenor's secret boyfriend goes to Sir Criston like, hey, guess we're both royal paramours. But this just makes Sir Criston mad, and he beats this guy to death for no good reason. Dude's got serious anger management issues. Now, boom, 10-year time jump, we've got grown-up actors playing the characters. It's a joyous day as Rhaenyra gives birth to her third son. But looking at their kids, they don't much look like Laenor. They look a lot like new commander of the City Watch, Harwin Strong. Yeah, she and Laenor have their happy open marriage, and she and Harwin Strong have a happy secret family. But one person's not happy, Queen Alicent, who's apparently dedicated the last decade to mean-girlsing Rhaenyra. But King Viserys is happy to meet his new grandson, and oh dude, you're not that old, what's wrong with you? Yeah, unfortunately, the king has some bad disease, and the only thing that slows it down is cutting off parts of your body. Alicent tries to tell her husband that Rhaenyra's kids aren't Laenor's, but he doesn't want to hear it because of course if it were true, he'd have to execute the whole lot. And so for now, there's a bunch of Targaryen princes growing up together, learning important Targaryen things like how to train your dragon. Sir Criston Cole is the boys' swords coach, and he's now BFFs with Queen Alicent because they're both nursing their grudges against Rhaenyra. So he hugely favors Alicent's kids. Harwin Strong's gotta bust in to protect them. And Sir Criston finally says it out loud, wow, you protect those boys as if you're their father. So boom, Harwin clocks that douche, but unfortunately that brings a lot of unwanted attention on their situation. It's best if Harwin leaves town. Now Harwin's dad is like, look, with all these rumors, it's best if I resign as Hand of the King, but Viserys is like, hey, they're just rumors, resignation denied. And this rubs Alicent the wrong way. She has dinner with her new gossip buddy, Larys Strong. She thinks it's unfair that he fired her dad for the same thing, having royal grandsons. She's like, I wish my dad was back. And Larys is like, well, queen, your wish is my command. So as his dad drives Harwin home to their castle, Harrenhal, which is said to be cursed. And maybe it is because that night his father and brother die in a fire. He's like, oh no, what a tragedy. It's like, bro, did you just murder your family? He's like, did I? Over the years, he continues to be Alicent's unofficial spymaster, and their relationship evolves from friendly gossip over dinner to, I'll give you information in exchange for looking at your feet. Now, what has Daemon been up to? Well, remember, he's technically married, but now he's single again after her unfortunate riding accident. So now he goes after none other than his brother's almost fiancée, Laena Velaryon, and she can handle his stuff. She's a dragon rider too. These two have a happy thing, but tragically childbirth strikes again, and Laena goes out in a blaze of glory, Targaryen style, Dracarys herself. So at the funeral, it's a big Targaryen family reunion, where Daemon and Rhaenyra are both grieving the losses of their loved ones. And like Will Ferrell says in Wedding Crashers, grief is nature's most powerful aphrodisiac, cause 10 years after their youthful almost fling, these two finally get it on. Elsewhere on the beach, another Targaryen is up to no good. This is Alicent's second son, Aemond Targaryen. And he's got a chip on his shoulder because he's been bullied by the other princes for being the only one without a dragon. But with his aunt's death, he figures her dragon is up for grabs to the first person to claim it. And her dragon's a real old model. It's Vhagar, one of the original three, and an absolute unit. But Aemond, with balls of steel, like, yo girl, I'm gonna ride ya, yip yip, and oh, it's dragon flight time! Oh, this kid's a maniac! And dragons bond with the first person who rides him, so Aemond's got a dragon now. Laena's daughters are real mad that he scooped their mom's dragon, but he's like, hey, you snooze, you lose, losers. And so it turns into a kid's cousin fight, which is a fun time until someone loses an eye. Their respective mama bears didn't like each other anyway, and now Alicent's real pissed, grabs the knife, goes to cut out one of their eyes. After this, it's like, yo, screw Alicent and her kids. You and me, we're the real Targaryens. It's like, you know what? If we were married, people wouldn't challenge my rule for being a woman, because, you know, you'd be king next to me. Daemon's 100% in, but he's like, yo, you're still technically married. There's no divorce in Westeros. Laenor's gonna have to die. So Daemon Targaryen puts back on his murder hoodie. He makes a deal with Laenor's current boyfriend. These two start fighting, and when the guards get there, oh, Laenor's been pushed into the fire. I knew Daemon was kind of a bad guy, but Rhaenyra, I expected better from you. But wait, what's this? Who's that rowing the escape boat? It is Laenor Velaryon! Yes, they faked his death, staged it so these two got to go live a quiet life, which leaves Daemon and Rhaenyra free to marry each other. Yeah, after all these years, the timing finally was right, and it's a really sweet, slightly incestuous love story. And so, for a quiet 6 years, Rhaenyra and Daemon live happily on Dragonstone, but the sea snake, Corlys Velaryon, has been grievously wounded, and his brothers, like, yo, Rhaenyra's kids aren't Laenor's, I should inherit. So Rhaenyra comes back to King's Landing, where her father the king was barely hanging on. He can't have made it another 6 years. Oh, but he did. He's still hanging in there, barely. With the king out of commish, the real rulers are the Hightowers, Alicent, and her father Otto. And they can't fully say that Rhaenyra's kids are not Laenor's, but casting the doubt is good for their eventual plan to put Alicent's kids on the Iron Throne. But what's this? Who's busting in now? It is old King Viserys. It's just an old man walking across a room, but it's an epic scene, as you can see how much he's putting into it. So with him now ruling in Rhaenyra's son's favor, this guy's got no option left but to go all in, drops a B-bomb, bastards! Which, oh, lets Daemon cut his head in half. Yeah, once he said it out loud, it was slander and like he's legally allowed to kill him, I guess. So with his whole family in town, Grandpa Viserys makes the effort to stay up for dinner, where they're celebrating a double betrothal. They're Brady bunching it, both Rhaenyra's sons to both Daemon's daughters, and at this point, the Targaryen and Valyrian family trees have become a circle. Anyway, for the old king's sake, everyone squashes the beef for the night, and it's a nice, happy Targaryen family dinner. Until Grandpa goes to bed, because the family feud has passed down to the new generation, these sons don't get along. And it's the younger brother, Aemond, who sets things off. Puberty hit this guy like a truck. He's grown up into an epic fighter and looks real cool in his badass eye patch. He makes a speech complimenting his nephews, which is a nice gesture, until he calls them strong. Of course, the surname of their real father. It sets off a whole fight again. Daemon's like, yo, you're just a cheap knockoff of me. But Aemond's like, oh no, I'm the upgrade. A short time later, the day finally comes when old King Viserys dies. His dutiful wife Alicent was with him at the end, where he was rambling incoherently, but did say Aegon should be king. He was talking about his ancestor, Aegon the Conqueror, but that's what you get for naming all your kids Aegon. So now she's like, hey, it was his dying wish that my son Aegon becomes king, and the rest of the small council's like, well, that's convenient, because we were gonna do it anyway. Except this one guy who's like, well, that seems very suspicious. He always was adamant that Rhaenyra be his heir. So Kristen Cole comes up like, sit down, old man, and oh, he sat him down a little too hard. He killed this guy. Yeah, he's a repeat offender now. It's like, bro, I gotta take your gun and badge. But it's actually the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard who takes off his white cloak like, yo, y'all clearly up to some shady stuff. I want no part of it. So who is this Aegon? Is he at least a good guy that'll be a good king? Well, not really. At his best, he's kind of a douchey party boy, and at his worst, he likes sexually assaulting castle servants and going to underground children fighting rings. So they round up all the lords like, hey, Rhaenyra's out, Aegon's in, bend the knee, or, you know, die. One of the VIPs here is Rhaenys Targaryen, who's basically a hostage, but one of the Kingsguard busts in like, yo, I'm getting you out of here. But they don't make it very far because all of King's Landing is being herded in for King Aegon's coronation. And Aegon didn't want to be king. He's like, oh man, it's gonna be nothing but work. But now that the crowds are cheering for him, he's like, you know, maybe I do want to be king. But Rhaenys sneaks downstairs because this building big enough to house all these people is the Dragon Pit. Yeah, she busts on out of there. Her dragon was parked right under him. Badass grandma moment. She flies on over to Dragonstone with the bad news, your dad's dead, and they crowned Aegon immediately. And this is pretty stressful for pregnant Rhaenyra. In fact, oh no, something's wrong. And it's a third tragic graphic childbirth scene, but this one Rhaenyra does survive. Now, the Kingsguard who helped Rhaenys arrives. Incidentally, they're twin brothers, Eric and Eric. But this Eric is choosing Rhaenyra. In fact, he smuggled out her father's crown. And so here, in front of a small group of friends and family, Rhaenyra gets her coronation, finally officially queen. But before they start warring, Otto Hightower comes to try to make peace, like, look, this doesn't have to get bloody. If you bend the knee to Aegon, renounce all claim to the throne, you and your family can live happily, inherit their other castles and stuff, and the realm isn't plunged into civil war. Daemon's of the mind they should kill Otto right now, but Rhaenyra's like, well, let's give it a thought. If we're gonna do a Targaryen civil war, the Targaryens aren't the only house involved. Stark, Tully, Lannister, Baratheon, names you know from Game of Thrones, which sides would they fight on? Rhaenyra gets one strong ally right away because Corlys Velaryon, the Sea Snake, survived his mortal wounds. At this point in history, they're one of the strongest houses in Westeros and definitely have the most powerful navy. But maybe even more important than other allies is the fact that this side has more dragons. And Rhaenyra's sons, Jace and Luke, are like, yo, instead of letters, let us go as envoys flying on our dragons to remind everyone, you know, we Targaryens. The younger one, Luke, they give the shorter flight to Storm's End, seat of House Baratheon. He flies in on his dragon, super impressive, unless there's another bigger dragon already parked here. Yes, Aemond beats him here, fully decked out like an anime villain. This Lord Baratheon's like, yeah, kid, you're not really impressive. I already decided to side with Team Green. So Luke's going home empty-handed, but Aemon's not letting him off that easy. He really doesn't like Luke because he's the one who cut his eye. In fact, he pulls his eye patch off to show, oh, he's got like a blue put a sapphire in there. So Luke's like, no, I'm out of here. He starts flying off through the storm. But what's this? Massive shadow. Oh, Aemond followed him here on his monster dragon. Yeah, Aemond is an absolute mad lad. War is not even officially declared yet, but he's ready to get it going. Luke's little dragon manages to blast this one with some fire, but now Vhagar's real still mad, flying after him out of control. And as Luke flies above the storm, seems like he made it to safety. But oh, the big dragon eats him! Aemond didn't mean for this to happen. It seems like he was just trying to give him a scare, but now he knows he done messed up. Because when Rhaenyra gets the news her son's been murdered, any hope of peace is out the window. And that's where season 1 comes to an end. If you liked this recap, hit that subscribe button for more of the best recaps of TV and movies.